Good evening. Okay, so this past week, November the 7th was Marine Corps birthday, hoo-ha, and November the 11th was Veterans Day, so to any jarheads in the audience, Semper Fi, and to all you other vets, thanks for your service. And so that kind of brought up this poem here for me, published in an anthology in Texas back in '94. It kind of brought back these memories, so I thought I'd do that tonight since it's kind of like a veterans thing going on. Remembering 1968. At the end of 1968, when I announced from behind Peach Fuzz I'd enlisted in the Marines, the old man who belittled my long curly hair with name-calling taunts of Shirley Temple, who swore I'd never be half the man my brother was, reached for the bottle and did quick shots on top of Valium the doctor prescribed to keep him and his heart calm. And just before he passed out, after I'd slung him over my shoulder, carried him to bed with tears pumping down his face, he sputtered, my son, I've killed my son." I thought, now we're even, old man, but black clouds of unease rolled in and my gut spoke loudly that maybe I just made a huge fucking mistake. Thank you. Flashback to '68. So I started getting phone calls from an ex-girlfriend of 4 years ago, and it kind of, wow, what am I getting these phone calls for? And it turns out she's in an abusive relationship. Now, if anybody out there knows anything about these things, she's caught in this cycle of denial and can't believe that this guy she fell in love with is doing this stuff to her. And so I get these phone calls when she's in a lot of pain and it's really intense, and I do my best to counsel her. And so for me then, I have to deal with those emotions that come my way from her, and I can't hang on to them. So as a poet, I kind of deal with it in my own way. So this is called dealing with that type of thing. It's called The Myth of Us. And it's freshly written. It's gone through about 4 revisions, but I think it's ready to go here. The Myth of Us. We were the best of enemies, poking opposable thumbs into each other's eyes. You were the 31st of October, damping the dawn of All Souls Day, trussed up in bone-white couture, leaving no trace to come of what would be the end of days, the veniality of grace, bullets between Eden and Bedlam burning, victims of the twin flames, denial and lust. At the scent of ejaculation, they would rise and proclaim, red meat cures, the devil endures, riding a coal-age horse, we will creep softly among everyday people, offering false hope and rob the promise of amber waves. Collectors of hearts and names of the dead spoken in ictus, you coldly stalk what remains of innocence with the tenderness of wolves. Lady of the lost and confounded, not quite a blushing bride, is a co-conspirator in a blind mirror. This is the myth of us. We toppled the rock sideways over the edge onto our lives. So I don't want to leave you in those pits of emotional depression, so we'll do something a little bit lighter, and we'll call it after this one. This is called Things I've Learned. 1. I've learned that an offer of no strings attached comes with plenty of strings attached. Sometimes they are transparent or opaque and oblique. They can be elastic, rigid, short or long, and most always exhibit tendencies to infidelity. 2. That unrequited love means and remains exactly that, and it will hurt like hell but feel oh so good. That if you don't surrender it, let it go, it can become the ghost in the attic and haunt you. 3. Nothing is free, everything has a cost. If it says free, look for the hidden cost, read the small print, dig up the buried agenda. Put it under a magnifying glass. If you don't, someone, probably you, will pay the price. Okay, maybe not this time around. but eventually. 4. I've learned the Indian was serious when he said, "White men speak with forked tongues." I was sitting on a bar stool minding my can of beer at a private party of Native Americans I'd been invited to in Flagstaff, Arizona in January. A physically huge Yavapai sitting on a stool to my left, drinking whiskey and beer, clearly enunciated that phrase brusquely into my left ear. I froze, slowly turned toward him to come squarely face to face with a stone-cold expression and obsidian eyes stabbing straight into me. Warm, boozy breath cascading over my face. Heart pounding, feeling personally judged, I replied with as much even temperament as I could muster, "I'm not all white men." I waited with trepidation for the feedback. He stared intensely a moment longer, scowled, then grinned, then howled like a coyote on a full moon night. He clapped me hard on the back and said, "Let me buy you a whiskey." I figured graciousness was better than valor, so I accepted. He bought us each a shot. We downed them. It burned like the dickens all the way down my throat, hit bottom with a sick thud, and went right to my head. I felt like I was going to heave and throw it right back up. I'm not a whiskey drinker. He summoned the bartender to bring 2 more. I dizzily waved him off with a thanks, no. He got another for himself, swallowed it in one gulp, roared laughter, and quickly deadpan said, "Indians can outdrink white men." I grinned and snorted, clapped him on his back. "I think you're right, amigo." With that, he returned to stony silence, faced ahead, and stared into his can of beer on the bar. I slid like silly putty off my bar stool into the crisp, cold night mountain air of winter Flagstaff, done for. 5. I've learned never to imbibe more adult beverages than I can responsibly handle. Not that I've grown wiser with age in this respect. Time and nature, however, have wizened me. A hangover which once took 12 hours to recover from now exacts a toll of 144. Pay the piper with interest. 6. There are no atheists in foxholes or Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, etc. for that matter. Foxes favor hen houses and secular, non-secular, theistic, non-theistic indifference. Thus, their sly reputation. 7. I've learned never say yes, especially when you really mean no. Yes is open-ended. Yes leaves the door open to all manner of ramification, obligation, and consequence. Always start out saying no, or in the least maybe or possibly, which are no light. This gives room to negotiate, move and breathe, and grab a bug-out bag should it become necessary to flee. Yes only leaves the option of making yourself crazy, attempting to fulfill an open-ended agreement of consent, or breaking your word and having to skulk away in the dead of night under a dark cloud, pursued by a screaming banshee. 8. Do not, never, ever, under any circumstances, and you know what circumstances I'm circumnavigating and hitting at, say, "I love you," unless sincere, genuine, and authentic. Because if you do and you don't, it will assuredly come to a bad end and may very well involve hefty legal fees. If you suffer from being weak in the knees and know you can't exercise the proper restraint of tongue, and you do, get a prenuptial. 9. Finally, I've learned that learning never ends. There will always be more. The lessons will keep coming. The goal marker will continually be moved farther out. And this list of things I've learned on the journey, to be continued. Thank you.